Networks don't talk about it. Government can't tax it. But sports betting is a $200 billion a year business.
That's a major U.S. Supreme Court ruling that could open the door for legalized sports betting all across the country.
The Supreme Court is giving the green light for states to determine on their own whether they want to legalize sports gambling.
Tell Donahue his next pick is good for 20 grand, but I need him to guarantee a win, okay? I need a lot.
He's not that fucking good.
No, Tommy, he has to. All right, he has to, or else they're going to kill me. Do you realize this, Tommy? They're going to fucking kill me. I can't afford to gamble anymore. I need a fucking lock.
And good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into Lock Talk. It is here, day one of the NCAA tournament. My name is Jake O'Kane. Very excited to be with you. I'm coming to you live from the Island Casino up here in Harris, Michigan, fresh off of a foot and a half of snow last night. If you followed on Twitter, it was a hell of a ride to get up here, but we are here. We are ready to go. If the stream lags at all, I'm rocking the casino Wi-Fi, which in past years, you guys know how that goes. So not always going to be perfect, but we're going to roll through it just the same. Going to go a little bit longer today. We're going to talk about every single game on the docket. And honestly, things have been good. 55, 37, and 1 during March, up 8.47 units to this point. Been very, very solid. Just going to be myself up here this week. Joey is busy there in NYC. So why do we waste any time and just get right into this? Because at 11:15, we tip off on CBS. It's Creighton and Louisville, the 8-9 matchup. It's a great pairing with the ACC and Big East runner-ups. Each side feels slighted with the draw. I don't doubt it. Creighton, this is going to be their final run with Ryan Kalkbrenner. He's not going to break Jordan Bohannon's games played record, which is 179, which is insane. But this is going to be his 168th start for the Blue Jays, or not start, but his 168th game. He's helped them reach the second weekend in 3 of the past 4 seasons. He is the winningest player in program history. They may not deserve much higher than the seed that they got, but to draw Louisville and then Auburn there in the quad in Lexington, this is really tough. That would make me feel some type of way after battling all the way to the Big East title. Louisville probably feeling like they're 2 to 3 seeds lower than expected. The Cardinals rebounded after one of the worst seasons in school history last year, rattled off 27 wins, an 18-2 mark in the ACC. This tells me the committee, they also felt that the ACC was down this year. Now let's talk about how Vegas sees it. This one, Louisville's laying 2.5, total 145.5. I'm actually going to be playing Creighton outright, plus 130. Louisville has been kind of playing with fire. They've been on thin ice. Even though they pushed themselves to the ACC title game, they snuck in a 3-point win over Clemson, 2-point win over Stanford. I do like Creighton in this matchup. Louisville super hit and miss with those guards. This is a stronger front court for Creighton. I'm going to go with the Blue Jays, half unit on that one. Game number 2, High Point, 13 seed against Purdue. This is a true TV tip at 11:40. High Point, great story heading in. And honestly, I've done a little bit more research. High Point might be the most pristine university in the United States. If you look at their walkthrough of their basketball facility, it's incredible. They've captured the country's attention and just really how bought in an entire university can be. They have an enrollment right around 5,000, and they packed out the Kubain Center to watch Selection Sunday. It's going to be a group that rallies around stellar offensive play. They're rated second nationally according to College Basketball Reference, but congrats on getting in. Here's Purdue. Matt Painter's Boilermakers, they're dancing for the 10th time in the past 11 seasons. They're not the power that we saw with Edey in the front court last year, but Trey Kaufman-Renn, he's been great. He stepped into the spotlight. You'll see some familiar names around the edge. Braden Smith, Fletcher Lloyd, those guys are still going to be out there shooting threes like a bunch of whites. Vegas sees this thing, Purdue laying 7.5, which I thought was light. Total 154.5. I don't have anything on this game. I looked at the Purdue team total at 80, just couldn't quite get there. They haven't been as dominant in the first round. Actually, if they make it to the round of 64, we'll go through some trends with Purdue in the round of 32 rather, that would make me bet them, but not going to happen today. Next one, I get my Badgers bright and early, 12:30 tip. It's going to be 1:30 here, casino time. the 3 seed against the 14 seed Montana. Now, if you watched the Big Ten championship game, you may qualify for financial compensation due to the time wasted on a beautiful Sunday in March. But no, neither here nor there. I don't want to draw much attention to that game. That some people might have. People are freaking out the fact that we have to go to Denver. Yeah, that kind of sucks, but an hour and a half bus ride from Madison to downtown Milwaukee, 2-hour bus or 2-hour flight out to Denver. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about the elevation here in a second, but I don't think Wisconsin deserved the Milwaukee seeding in that one. Looking at Montana, the Grizzlies, one of the lowest teams in KenPom that actually made it to the field of 68. The Grizzlies have won 15 of their past 16, coming into the tournament with a possible legend if he goes off. Money Williams was the Big Sky sixth man of the year. He's an interesting cat. He's the leading scorer, but he's their sixth man. He plays like the third or fourth most minutes. I don't know. But he's really, really interesting. He's had games of 25, 26, 30, and most recently a 36-point game in a game where he shot just 2 of 10 from 3. So the guy could score. I just can't stomach a loss here. But how Vegas sees it, Wisconsin laying 16.5 makes me feel really good about it. Total is going to be 150, 2.5 on this one. And I'm going under. The altitude in this one, I just see this going under. I hate betting my Badgers not to score, but it's not as much of an indictment on Wisconsin's scoring as it is going to be how good their defense is. Now, obviously, the Big Ten championship game was a slop fest, but Wisconsin played stellar defensively against a really strong Michigan front court. I just think this game is a little higher than it should be. It could be a Wisconsin blowout. I think we're going to stay under the total. I got a half unit at 152.5. Moving down below, we've got Edwardsville against Houston in the 116, our first 116, tipping at 1 o'clock today. Can Houston get over the hump? That's all we're going to talk about this weekend, next weekend, hopefully not the weekend after that. I've talked about it enough, honestly. Kelvin Sampson, he just builds winners. All controversy and bullshit aside, the guy just builds winners. Edwardsville gets in. They walked through the OVC tournament, got themselves an auto bid. They're a defensive-minded team. They're almost all seniors. I don't expect them to make any noise, but Vegas sees this thing as a 29-point Houston game. I'm going to take the points in this. Keeping a game within 30 against Houston isn't that crazy. Now, you're going to need to put up a little bit of points. We've watched Houston completely crush the nuts of some teams, BYU, over the past weekend. But with this situation, they're going to limit possessions. Houston just does that. And they're not going to get in a situation where they are trying to run up the score and clown the other team because of net rating, because of seedings and things like that. So I really do think SIUE here can keep this thing within 30. I've got a half unit on that happening. Alabama State, Auburn, 150 tip on CBS. First off, what a win for State on Tuesday night. Even if you get the absolute doors blown off you today, you get a spot in one shining moment, and you're going to have that forever. Even if it felt like you had and if you ever felt like you had a shot at Auburn, this is probably it. 10 or so days ago, we're talking about a Tiger team with 2 losses, number 1 overall seed, all wrapped up, no questions asked, SEC title, ripe for the taking. They lose 3 of 4 and didn't really dominate in their win against Ole Miss, but you still got that 1 seed, but it kind of comes at a cost. You play this game, and if Louisville knocks off Creighton, we're talking about in de facto home game for Louisville here in Lexington. It should be a really, really interesting quad. I don't have any action on this. Auburn is laying 32.5, total 143.5 in that one. Moving on down the list. McNeese, the Cowboys against Clemson, 215 tip. Are we ignoring the fact? Amir Khan is great, but we're ignoring the fact that he's a backyard sports legend and they're rebooting on mobile in like a week. Industry plant? I don't know. Seriously, how is that not a storyline? But anyways, McNeese, hell of a run. And what I typed on Wednesday was, if Will Wade survives this offseason hiring blitz, I'd be shocked. Well, Will Wade, as I was typing this, took the job at NC State before their game. I don't know if I like that. He won 30 games in his first year, and he's got his group back in the dance. But I don't know about that move, taking the job. And why do you need to? It's not like they're going to give it to somebody else. But anyways, yeah, Will Wade going to NC State. Let's talk about this game, though. This time they don't face Gonzaga, which is very good for them. They faced Gonzaga in the first round last year, but they do get Clemson, and we've been riding Clemson. The Tigers, they're led by guard Chase Hunter, big man Ian Shefflin. These two can be one of the premier combos in the entire country. When it comes to it, Clemson is chasing a Final Four. They came just a game short last season. You know that's going to be on every single guy's mind to make a run. This should be a good spot for them to get it started. The Vegas sees this 7.5 in Clemson's favor. I would lean to Clemson in this spot. Totals 133.5. However, I'm going to go with the big man. Ian's over 9.5 rebounds plus money across the board. He had a dozen each of their ACC tournament games. McNee's super undersized. Before you go riding the Cowboys, I do need you to go look at their roster because they really don't play anybody outside of 6'7". It's a big size disadvantage. When we were talking about mid-majors, it's really hard for mid-majors to stay in the game when there's that kind of an advantage or a disadvantage in that scenario. But we're going over 9.5 rebounds. That's plus money. Next one. VCU, BYU, 305 on TNT. Now, I've talked about it. The Mormons, they play some NBA-ass style basketball. Kevin Young's group, they run, they gun, they pray to John Smith. Their shots are going to fall. Is it bad that I want BYU to lose so we can start fantasizing about how great Banza is going to be next season? I mean, I don't know. But VCU, they could definitely make it happen. Hard to say, though. The Rams, they're back in the dance for the 11th time in 15 years, one of the most consistent mid-major programs in the country. Outside of maybe Gonzaga, I don't think there's another one in my lifetime that even comes short. Now, speaking of Will Wade was a coach here, as well as Shaka Smart. Having those two back-to-back definitely helps, but the culture at VCU is winning. And they're back again. They're senior-filled, guard-dominant group that's in the conversation, one of the best defensive groups in college basketball. But they have a hell of a test today. Remember what I talked about. This is also in this Denver quad, and we're talking about elevation factor. And if you've been to Provo, Utah, I have not. I have no reason to, and probably will never go. But if you ever do, the elevation is just as high as Denver, and BYU wants to get up and down the floor. VCU, if they want to stay in this game, they rely on heavy defensive pressure. Offensive metrics away from home go to crap. BYU shoots 38% away from home. From three, I mean, BYU just plays. I'm actually taking BYU. I'm laying 2 with BYU for 3/4 of a unit in this one. I like BYU to make it to the next round. I know that's not a really popular pick or a sexy pick, but I do think BYU gets it done. Georgia, Gonzaga, we get an 8-9 matchup at 3:35 this afternoon on TBS. And the Zags, every right to be confused on their seeding. A top 10 team, according to Ken Pom, wins over Baylor, ASU, San Diego State, Indiana, St. Mary's. The losses are apparently what got them. They lost to West Virginia, Oregon State, and Santa Clara. Regardless, this team felt like a 5 or 6. I don't know how they end up at 8. Georgia, they feel just about right as a 9 seed. The Dogs dancing for the first time in a decade. Asa Newell is one of the most exciting freshman in the country, fresh off a 21-17 performance against OU in their loss in the SEC tournament. If they want to upset the Zags, they're going to need big time output. It's going to be awesome to watch Newell versus Graham Ike. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. Graham Ike, who we have been watching since his time in Wyoming. Vegas sees this thing, Gonzaga laying 6.5, totals 150.5. I was starving for an angle in this game. I like Gonzaga, but this spot for UGA has been pretty decent. They've covered the number 4 of their last 5 games. The total's a tad bit higher than I'd grade it, but it's not enough to warrant any action. Nobody wants to see Gonzaga in the round of 22, but they do feel like they're kind of inevitable at this point. Not going to bet that one. Game that I will bet, and it's going to be one of my largest bets of the day, Tennessee and Wofford. Now, similar to Houston, Tennessee primed to make that jump to the Final Four. They've been a 5 seed or better in 7 of the past 8 seasons, and they've went to the Sweet 16 in 23, and then the Elite 8 in 24. Rick Barnes, senior-led group, one of the top defenses in the country. They've got a nationwide high, 13 wins against the field. So they're as battle tested as they come. Wofford, they come into the tournament fifth time, or they made the tournament 5 out of 10 years back in 2010 to 2019. However, this is the first time in 6 years we've actually seen the Terriers get back in it. Now, they finished 6th in the Southern this season and then kind of rattled off 3 great wins to punch an auto bid. Another group of seniors, but they've never seen the likes of Tennessee. Actually, I take it back. They have seen the likes of Tennessee. They saw Duke. It was an 86-35 trouncing. That was back in November. I am going to lay 19, though, in this one. I'm laying 19. The total is 133.5. But yeah, I like it a lot. Tennessee, they bring such balance. I really see this group holding Wofford to maybe even less than 50 points. Defensively, they're unmatched. Offensively, they've got athletes, shooters, great scheme, good coach. Wofford, great run for them in their conference tournament. But we can look at the Duke game from earlier this year, and we can kind of see when they step up in class, it's probably not going to work out for the Terriers. I've got a full unit on Tennessee laying 19. Next is probably the game of the day. It's going to tip at 6:10 on CBS. I'm sure it'll tip closer to 7 o'clock because of how things fall. Definitely the game we're most looking forward to, Cal versus Bill Self. What a treat. We all know Kansas has Hunter Dickinson. That's nothing new. Most of us will be relishing in the fact that they are a 7 seed and will be betting against them. Now, they've lost 3 of 5 in March. They had nearly an immediate exit from the Big 12 tournament. UCF took these guys to overtime. And if Darius Hall doesn't foul out in that overtime game, I think we see these seeds maybe even flipped. I think they always wanted them to play each other, but I just see maybe a flipping of the seeds. Cal had a really rough start to his Arkansas tenure, started conference play with 5 straight losses, but he rallied this group, won 4 of their final 5 in the regular season. Realistically, if they don't beat SC in the SEC tournament, which was a close game, could be looking at a first 4 team. So pump for this one. I have a bet, and my bet is going to be the Arkansas team total, which is sitting at 70.5. The Jayhawks, they've allowed just under 70 points per game on the season, but that is heavily weighted to a weak non-conference schedule. When we look at their last 15, that number raises to 76.4. When we look at only tournament teams, we move that number then to 78 points per game. Arkansas, not an offensive juggernaut, but we don't need them to be. They've cleared this total in 6 of their last 7 games. And during that stretch, their number is just shy of 81 points. It is the game of the day. So of course we want to take an over to some capacity. I like it. I've got a full unit on the Arkansas team total. Next one, double play here. Yale is facing Texas A&M. Can the Bulldogs do it again for the second straight year? I'll never forget my title pick, Auburn. We're sitting there spending way too much money at a steakhouse, having dinner with my wife because I had been watching basketball the entire day and wanted to treat her to something nice. And I had to watch my national title pick, Texas A&M, just crumble. Or not Texas A&M, rather. Auburn just crumble against this Yale Bulldogs team. This team is just as good. These nerds can absolutely hoop. They were 13-1 in the Ivy League, average north of 81 points per game. They're top 25 team in rebounding. They slash 49, 39, 73. They're top 10 in both field goal and 3-point percentage. Now, no easy task here. John Poulakidis still out there sniping the Greek guard, short little white guy. Fun to watch. A&M, they had an early exit from the SEC tournament after toppling Auburn a week prior. We had that game money line. Big shout out. After losing 4 straight, they won 5 straight. And it paints a perfect picture of how the Aggie season's gone. They lack consistency. They beat teams like Auburn, Creighton, Purdue, and Texas, Arkansas. I mean, they beat some good teams, but then they would skid for 4 or 5 games at a time. It's really hard what kind of team you're going to see. Vegas has them laying 7.5 as of this morning, and a total of 139.5. I actually am backing the Bulldogs. I've got a quarter unit on Yale money line, and then I've got a half unit. My number, I did +8. Now, I would play this thing probably down to +7. You get inside 7. I don't know if I really care for that, but I think Yale is the kind of team that could make those inconsistencies stand out. If you're A&M was 13-3 straight up at home, but finished just 9-7 away from home. It's a really bad opponent for them, especially one that has done this before with a very similar group. Moving down below, a game that everybody and their brother wants to bet. And we are going to bet it too, but we'll get there in a second. Drake in Missouri is a 635 tip. Maybe the hottest upset pick of the first round. The Bulldogs won 30 games. They were first in points allowed and cruised to an MVC crown by design. This group is dead last in pace. They're going to do whatever it takes to muck a game up. Although it's been a very dominant season, we've yet to see them step up in class. The Shriners Classic back in Feast Week, they did well, beat Miami, FAU, Vandy. So you got one team that made the tournament in there. But then we get Missouri, who's played the nation's toughest conference and played 18 games against teams that made it into the NCAA tournament. Now, they lost 4 of 5 to round out the regular season, nearly slipped to a first 4 candidate. However, we've seen this team beat Kansas, Florida, Georgia. They've kept themselves afloat. They've got a big 3 with Mark Mitchell, Tamar Bates, Caleb Grill. They could easily get you 50 to 60 points. And I really like them in this spot against Drake, but I only really like it with the team total. Let's see how Vegas looks at it with Mizzou laying 6.5, total 132.5. Yeah, I'm all over Missouri outright, but I'm not going to pay the price for it. Drake plays too slow, and there's not enough possessions for Missouri to break away. This is a spot where I think Missouri scores 70 points. The total is 69.5. It is not a big number. This is the 9th best scoring team in the nation. I'm just betting them not to be a complete flop. I do respect what Drake has done. I don't respect who they've done it against. I think Drake, and also we're going to talk about the Tritons here in just a second. Battle tested means something. Good non-conference schedules mean something, but we'll see. Next one, Utah State and UCLA, 8:25 tip on TNT. After bitching all season, this is a fun one. Mick Cronin. Yeah, we're going to stick you out to Lexington, Kentucky. Enjoy the trip, buddy. Our final views of UCLA are going to be a little bit distorted. It was Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament hitting 19 3-pointers. I don't think we're going to see that kind of historic performance out of Utah State tonight. It's a pretty good UCLA squad. It's a group that ranks 17th in defense in Ken Palm. So again, that Wisconsin number, little bit inflated. They are a big pack the paint team. They are 8th in opponent field goal percentage inside the 3-point line. They are also allowing opponents to just attempt only 28 shots inside the arc. So it's good for 6th nationally. It's going to be an interesting battle. State 11th in the country. They shoot 56 or 58% rather inside the arc. So you do get kind of clashing styles, good clashing styles in this one. They also get to the line nearly 22 times per game, and they're not afraid to bang down low. It's a good game here. I think we're going to be super competitive. I was going to bet the first half. I like the first half at 66. Going over, and then I look more into it. I'm just not going to get there on a play in this one. Vegas sees at UCLA laying 6.5. Utah State total is 143.5. Just not a game that I'm going to get down with. Omaha, 15 seed, gets St. John's, 8:45 tip on CBS. Probably going to be closer to 9. And St. John's has to be the bad guy. Now, I am all for WWE Selly's post-game. I love it for Omaha. The Mavs have had an unbelievable season. They're going to dance for the first time in school history. The team won just 19 games over 3 seasons from 21 to 23. So this is a huge spot. What Chris Crutchfield's done for this program, nothing short of a fairy tale. However, fairy tales come to an end, and Rick Pitino is the exact kind of character that is ready to end that fairy tale. The Red Storm had not made it to the first round of the NCAA tournament in 10 years. You got to go back to the days of Lou Carnesecca to find the last time that they were top 5 in the country. All good things come to an end here for Omaha. Vegas sees it St. John's laying 19. I would absolutely lean that number. Omaha team totals 148. The reason I didn't bet it, I do have a future. I've got St. John's winning the national championship. Bet it this morning, plus 2,500, just a quarter unit to win, 6.25. So we are going to be not betting, but we're going to be watching just how well the Red Storm play. See if we need to hedge out. Next one. We talked about Drake possibly being everybody's upset pick of the day. This is probably just as popular. It's UC San Diego against Michigan. Now, all my shit talk of Michigan came back to bite me in the ass during the Big Ten tournament. However, when I saw the draw for the Wolverines, I suddenly felt fine about where Wisconsin's at. But then I looked into it more. UC San Diego, they've won 15 straight. Probably, like I said, just as much of a public underdog as Drake. The Tritons, they've got a New Zealander, Tate Jones. Great basketball player. But then we've also got Tyler McGee, just the perfect cookie duster pedo stash on a guard, a white dude that you would see in college basketball. This Tritons team, top 10 defending inside the paint. They are 6th in scoring. However, not a tall bunch. They've shown that they've got guys that can defend 4-ish positions, but I don't know if they can defend 5, which they're going to need it. Michigan's front court of Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf, one of the best in the country and is definitely the biggest in the country. And for that reason, I'm taking Michigan money line. I have Michigan money line at -130. I did it for 3/4 of a unit. Vegas makes this a 2.5 point spread, 141.5 point total. But yeah, I'm going to be the one schmuck with a Michigan ticket. San Diego's great story. But again, who have they played and what are we basing this off of? I'm not super excited. I think the Michigan front court, way too much to handle. Great story for the Tritons, but yeah, I like Michigan stomping out that fire. And then our last game of the night is going to be UNC Wilmington, the Seahawks against Texas Tech. That's a 9:10 tip Central Time. Decent nightcap, should be solid. Tech comes in, definitely less than 100% health, and we'll talk about it. That's definitely baked into the number, but it looks like everybody's going to play. Can't really say that for sure because I don't know who's being super truthful anymore. But let's look at the Red Raiders. JT Toppin, just like his brother was, he's ready to become a household name here in March. 6'9", averages 18-9, was the Big 12 player of the year, most likely a first-team All-American. I can't imagine somebody sneaks in front of him. His stretch of 30-14, 25-11, 26-10 here in March have him all over my radar. Not to mention he's blocking 2 to 3 shots per game. He's playing it on both ends. Wilmington coming in with an auto bid after taking second during the season in the CAA. It's a long group that gets after it on the boards. Need to play nearly perfect in this one, though. The Seahawks, they're dancing for the first time since back-to-back appearances in 16-17, but it's a group of only upperclassmen. But seriously, I talked about the length. Look at these guys. They start 6'1", 6'8", 7 foot, 6'5", 6'4". Then they got a pair of 6'7" guys coming off of the bench. Vegas sees this thing as a 15.5 point spread, 142.5 point total. I think there's definitely some Texas Tech injury news baked into that line because it is fishy. If we hear some good things throughout the day, I might end up playing UNCW. I don't know. We'll see. We've played them a lot in the past, just in regular season games, but not sure there. All righty. That is going to do it for today. Wanted to keep it under 30 minutes, and we are doing just that. A little recap of what we got. Creighton plus 130 going to get us started. Half unit against Louisville, Wisconsin, Montana. Under 150, 3.5 for a half unit. SIUE is plus 29 against Houston for a half. Ian Shefflin over 9.5 rebounds for Clemson. That is a half unit play. Then we start getting into the bigger stuff. BYU, VCU. BYU, I like laying 2 at 0.75 units. Tennessee for a unit laying 19 against Wofford. Arkansas team total over 70.5 against Kansas for a unit. Then we've got Yale money line, which is plus 275 for a quarter unit. Yale plus 8 for a half unit. We've also got Michigan minus 130 against San Diego State. That is 3/4 of a unit. And then, I did miss it. Missouri over 69.5. That is 0.6 units against Drake to cover up some of our juice. But that's all I got, man. That's all I got. I think I'm betting 10 of the games today, which should be great. Bucks play the Lakers tonight too, which should be a very fun game. I've got Bucks money line. Don't love what I paid for that, but sometimes you roll with it. Like I said, 55, 37-1 plus 8.47 units. Good luck to everybody today. Make sure you are betting smart. It is a long weekend. You do not want to blow your load on day one. However, I can't talk much because I've got 8 units sitting out there deployed. But appreciate everybody for chiming in. As always, stay sharp. Good luck. And we will talk to you tomorrow morning at the same time.